it is the end of the week here in the UK, and I thought I would do a quick video to share with you guys some news that I've seen. Now, I didn't go live on Sunday night, so I haven't had a chance to talk about some of these things. Now, I've been out for my daily walk, and I thought I'd take a bit of time out and give you guys a few updates on some of the things I've seen in the drone industry, but I want to talk a little bit about some cameras as well, specifically about what's going on with my gear, because I've had to buy a new camera, the G9. My GH5's been sent off for repair, but there's also been a new camera from Sony, which is aimed at people like me, and whilst I'm not a camera channel, some of these things are aimed at me, so I will talk about them as well. Now, I want to talk to you first of all about the drone industry and some of the things that I have seen. Now, the big one is a new drone release. Now, it is a drone called the Noa by Acecore Technologies, and this is quite an interesting product because it is a large industrial or cine aerial platform. It's designed to carry large payloads of up to 20 kilos, and that means you're going to be able to fly cameras such as the Reds and all of those type of units. Now, it has a maximum takeoff weight of nearly 37 kilos, and they say it can fly for up to 1 hour on full batteries. Now, we'll have to see what the actual real world figures on this turn out to be. However, it is clear this is quite a serious platform, and it's designed to compete really with models like the M600 from DJI, as well as the Alta and other models from Freefly as well. Now, the real interesting thing for this drone for me is the fact that it is made in the Netherlands, so it is somewhat European based, or at least this side of the water, but it is also using the Cube Autopilot for its flight controller. It's using the Cube Orange, but you also have the option of fitting the Cube Blue as well if US manufacturing is required. Now, it is a really interesting aircraft when you start looking at it, because it has things like dual GPS, it has ADS-B ready, it has the option of multiple ground stations with 128-bit AES encryption, and also has the option of using what they call their HearLink George. Now, if you haven't seen this, this is a modified version of the HearLink controller by Profi CNC and Hex that they have built in an outer case, and it has a built-in extra screen and stuff like that, and it's a really interesting option as well. Now, there's been no talk of figures on this thing, how much it's going to cost, but it is an extremely interesting platform, especially if you are a large cine drone or a large drone user who's going to need someone with a large payload. Now, they do also say there's going to be a smaller version, or at least a lighter payload version of this with a maximum takeoff weight of 25 kilos. There isn't a lot of information on that on the website, but it is going to be something that is going to come as well. But it is really quite an interesting aircraft, because it's the first time I've seen since the Alta a real contender against the M600 style aircraft, and I can see a lot of people being very interested in this. They've got footage showing it with the Ronin gimbal, as well as Gremsy ones and other ones like that as well. So it is worth checking out. I'll put a link to it in the description of this video too. The next thing I want to give you guys an update on is the DJI versus Autel thing, because I've seen a lot of confusion on the internet on this, and is it over, is it not over? We spoke about it on the SUAS News podcast on Tuesday night, and the reality is I'm no expert on any of this. My understanding is the situation basically is Autel managed to get a judge to agree that DJI had infringed on their patents. DJI have managed to get a judge to agree that none of the patents or patents are valid, and it's gonna now bounce back and forth between the lawyers. The basics are you are not going to see a ban of DJI aircraft in the USA. I think that's the safest bet to say on this. As for the patent dispute, it's far from over, but you're just not going to see a complete shutdown of aircraft, and it's going to be interesting to see what that is. I've seen some people saying, should they buy their aircraft now before lockdowns or before they can't buy them? Don't worry, it's all fine. Just while I'm talking about DJI, I will also mention that they put out some information on how to properly activate the batteries on the Mavic Air 2. There has been a number of issues on people activating the batteries, and if you try to activate the battery on the multi-charging hub, which comes with the Fly More kit, it could actually brick the battery. They've now actually released a way of getting around that and giving you a process to actually correctly activate the battery. They have recommended that you don't do it that way, you actually charge it individually, you charge it on its own rather than that. However, you can get out of it if you are having problems with it. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is Yuneec. Now, I don't know a lot about this. However, there is a lot of rumblings online, and we've talked about it again on the Tuesday podcast, that Yuneec are no longer in business in the USA. Now, I've not been told anything specific. I don't really know where any of this is ending up. All I've really seen is on forums, and it is clear that the US operation of Yuneec is no longer operating, and the belief is that they will not be operating after the current human malware situation either. Now, what this means for the long term, no one really knows. As I understand it, Yuneec is still very much in business in China. They're still operating. There's no problems there. So it appears to be a US issue, not a global Yuneec issue, I should say. Now, I also don't know what the situation is with Yuneec UK. I do need to reach out with them. I have had a bit of a relationship with them in the past. They were really good guys, to be fair to them, but I haven't heard anything from them recently, so I might ping them over an email just to see if they're okay. Again, Yuneec seems to be set up very much as independent partners and not Yuneec's own businesses, but it clearly seems something has gone wrong in the US. I don't think this means they're going to be gone forever. I think we will probably see them reappear as something else, but here and now it does appear to be the case that they are certainly, or whoever there was their distributor or running Yuneec USA, is no longer in business. Moving over to autopilots, there's been quite a few interesting things on that this week. The first really cool one was the picture or the poster released by Cubepilot, Proficiency and Hex on the whole Cubepilot system. I don't know if you guys have seen it. I'll put a link to that in the description of the video. It is a very, very cool image, and really what they're showing in this is how open and how much compatibility there is on the Cubepilot system with multiple different equipment from different vendors, and what sort of capabilities you do have with multiple GPS, multiple cam-based sensors, ESCs, all of this stuff. And the idea is to give people inspiration on how they can set their system up, because I think there's always a lot of confusion around the Cube and the Pixhawk series and all of them, and I have been thinking about putting a video together to explain this, or at least try and explain it, because it is a complex situation. There's Pixhawk software, and then there has been Pixhawk hardware, and what they've talked between them and Ardra and PX4, and it all gets a bit messy. But the basics is the Cube is no longer part of the Pixhawk ecosystem. Whilst its origins may have come from the original designs, it certainly is very much a product of its own now. And we've also seen a number of other manufacturers create cubes, but not really for any good reason. You know, Philip Proficiency made the Cube specifically because they wanted one carrier board with multiple different autopilots, and they've delivered that. You know, we've got the Cube Black, the Cube Orange, the Cube Yellow, the Cube Purple, the Cube Green. There's a red in the mix somewhere to come in the future as well. So that has been done for a reason, but we've seen other manufacturers release cubes that have been one shots, no other autopilots released after that are compatible, at least. But the poster's well worth a look anyway, and I'm hoping to get one either printed or get hold of one to put up on the in the wall in the workshop, because I just love it. I think it's really cool just to be able to see the whole system laid out like that. Now, as I said, there's also been some other talk. We've got a new autopilot from CUAV, and it's not new, but it's finally been released, called the Nora. This is a H7 based autopilot with a 480 meg CPU. It's got redundant IMU, vibration isolated, internally temperature controlled as well. They're saying it's using industrial grade sensors, and that is reflected in the price of this autopilot as well. It is certainly much more expensive than the Cube, for instance, and it's more expensive than their other models have been in the past. I'm hoping to actually get my hands on one to have a look on the channel, and I'll hopefully be talking about one of them in the near future as well. The nice thing about it this time is that it isn't a Cube, which means they've actually put some thought into it being a standalone flight controller, because I've got the V5 Plus and it's a very nice controller, but it is a Cube for no good reason. And I do know the new version of the V5, or the V5 Plus, wasn't compatible with the V5, which was also a Cube. So there's been a bit of, they've made a Cube, but the point of it was missed, if you understand what I'm saying. The idea of making a cube or a separate autopilot and carrier board is to be able to keep the same carrier board and change the autopilot, and unfortunately CUAV haven't always done that. But the Nora is going to be available now. I think it was $380 when I looked at it, which is quite expensive, but it does say it's got better sensors, and I will talk about it a lot more when I get my hands on one. There's also a new autopilot from Hollybro called the P32 version 5, or I think it's P32. Let me just bring it up. I took a screenshot. Is it P32? Yeah, P32 version 5, PX32 version 5, sorry. Now, this is a bit of a weird one because this is a cube style autopilot, but it is very, very small, and to me it looks a lot like the Cube Purple. It appears to be an F7 based unit, but based on the size, it doesn't look like it's internally vibration isolated. It doesn't look like it's got redundant sensors, but it does have a cube design with a separate carrier board. So it's going to be interesting to see where Hollybro go with this. There isn't a lot of info on it right now. There hasn't been a lot of spec released. It has simply been basic information. They're saying it's based on the PX V5 Plus specification for the PX4 flight controller, so that means F7, but it doesn't look like it's going to be vibration isolated or anything like that, and it does look very small. You know, it only looks about that big looking at the picture, but we'll have to see. But it is another one of these autopilots that is cube shaped. It is also separate carrier board, so it's going to be interesting to see, are they going to develop an ecosystem around it? Because if they're not, it is entirely pointless doing it in the first place. So that is that one there. And that is pretty much all of the news on the drone side of things. Now next I want to talk about cameras, and whilst I don't often talk about cameras, it is something I do want to do a bit more of on the channel, because it is something that is very close to my heart. I use them pretty much, I use them every day, and I do follow the camera industry quite closely. I follow a lot of camera channels as well. Now, this week we've seen a couple of things have happened in cameras in my world. First of all, I've got a new one. I've bought a Panasonic G9, and I'll explain why in a second. But we've also had Sony release the ZV-1, and I want to talk about that because it's a camera that is aimed for me. It is aimed for what I am doing here right now, and I'm just a bit gutted because I just don't think it fits the bill, and I'd love a camera that would make my life easier to do that, and I'll talk about that a bit more in a second. Now, on my channel, I actually used two cameras most of the time at the moment. I originally had a Canon 750D, I think it was, or D750. 750D, which is the Rebel 6 Ti in the US, and that I was doing all of my videos on that for a long time, and then I felt I needed more. So what I ended up doing is trading that in, and I got myself a Panasonic GH5. Yes, that was a massive step up from what I had, but I wanted a camera that would suit me for the channel, give me a huge amount of options for the future, but was also a decent stills camera as well. Now, part of the reason I went for the Panasonic was I wanted to keep within the lens system I'd already started investing in with my Inspire 2, which was MFT. Because I am what you might call a hobby user or semi-pro, I don't have a lot of money to be spending on gear all of the time, and whilst I do spend a bit of money on cameras, I like to spend it wisely, and I don't do it that often. So for me, I jumped into the GH5, and it has been the best camera I have ever had, period. It has been fantastic. It is the best purchase I made on my channel next to this microphone, as I talked to you about in the video the other day. And it's done me an absolutely solid job for about 20 months. Now, about a year ago, I felt I was lacking something and wanted a second camera as B-roll, but I also needed another one for stills, and I just had this feeling I was missing something in the MFT, so I ended up getting this camera, which I'm recording this on now, which is the Sony a6400. And I have to say, whilst it is a fantastic camera, it has been a bit of a letdown for me, or a disappointment. Not the camera itself. I think the camera is very good. The lens choice I made was bad, and it was bad after taking some advice as well. And it's not that it's a bad lens, it's actually a very, very good lens. It just doesn't suit my needs. Now, the lens I'm talking about here is the 18-105G image stabilized. It is the electronic 18-105 lens, and it is fantastic, apart from the fact it has a horrendous minimal focus distance. And that means for me, as someone who is recording products and flight controllers and little things, I can't get them up close, and it's close to useless for doing any of the filming I do most of the time. So I've always ended up using the GH5. Now, whilst the GH5 has been perfect, I have got a little issue with it, and it started about 3 months ago, and that is that I've managed to somehow get some dust under the AA filter, or the OPLF, or LPF, the anti-aliasing filter, basically, and it isn't on top of the glass, it's a particle under it. And whilst it's not been an issue in video, it's been causing me problems in stills photography when I've been using it. Anything above f11, it's been showing up. So it got to the stage where the warranty was heading out. It is, I think, covered by warranty, or at least I hope it is. So I've sent it into Panasonic to be repaired. And before I did that, I started looking around to get myself another camera for two reasons, really. The first was my wife loves the GH5, and when we both went out, none of us were 100% happy with the Sony. But secondly, I wanted another backup camera for around the workshop, and I ended up getting this, which is the Panasonic G9. Now, you might be wondering, well, why did I go for a G9 instead of another G5? The reality is today, the G9 is a very different camera to the one it was when it launched. And whilst the GH5 was very video centric on day one, and the G9 was very still centric, the 2.0 firmware release for the G9 has brought it to 90% of what the G5 can do. It certainly does more than I need it to do, and the only limitation left for me on the G9 is the 30-minute recording, or the 10-minute recording in 4K, I think it is. And that really isn't a problem, because it's very rare I do long continuous lengths of recording. Most of my stuff is start-stop, as I've been doing here and as I've been doing in most of my videos. So I decided to save myself, I think it was like £200, $200, and get myself a G9, and I picked that up this week, and that's allowed me now to send my GH5 off to Panasonic to hopefully get this dust particle removed. Now, I do quite a bit of photography. I wouldn't say I'm a good photographer, I'm far from it, but I do a bit of it, and I do like to follow the cameras a little bit, and I've been Yuneec for full frame, and the A7R3s, R4s, and all of those things we've all want to see. But something that caught my eye this week, and I want to talk a little bit about, is the Sony ZV-1, because it is a camera that is aimed at what I am doing here now. It is what Sony call the perfect vlogging camera, and it is one that is designed to be small and portable, and you're able to take out with you and film, and it's the vlogger's dream. Now, I watched about 4 videos on this camera. I think it was, I watched the Gerald Undone's, which is always fantastic. Of course, I watched Philip Bloom's, because that's a must. 3 Blind Men and an Elephant, who has an unbelievable channel. If you've not come across that channel, I strongly suggest you go and check out his YouTube style. His video is just, it's riveting, just the way the gentleman talks, the way his videos are. And I watch Camera Conspiracies as well, because that's another favourite of mine. And when you look at this, it's really quite weird what Sony have done with this camera, because it does have a lot of high-end features, same sensors, the RX100s, the version 5, version 7, which is 1 inch. It's got a built-in lens, but it isn't quite wide enough. It has a built-in microphone, but it doesn't sound good enough. And then you've got this shocking state of affairs with the battery door. And the issue is with it that the battery door is right next to your screw on the bottom of the camera, which means if you've got a quick release plate on it, you can't use it. And the SD card is in the same door as well. And that means every time you want to change a battery or change your card or take your card out, you've got to either remove your quick release plate, remove it off the tripod or device or whatever you've got it on. And it's just a little bit frustrating that in a camera that is designed for vloggers, a camera that is designed to be out and about, if you've got something on it that makes your life easier, it's going to make your life 10 times harder. Now, yes, there are some things you can do to get around this. You can charge it via USB. You can take the footage off via USB. However, that isn't a workflow anyone who does this I know does. You always have your cards, you have multiple cards. If you're out for a day, you're stripping footage across multiple cards as well. So it's a bit of a strange release. It has, though, on the flip side, some really cool features. It has the same autofocus, I think, as this camera. It's certainly the same as the A6600. And I think this is the same as the A6600. It has a cool hardware or lens-based image stabilization alongside software stabilization as well, if I can get the word out, which is quite cool. and it works very well, but it does additionally crop, especially in 4K. So what you're then doing is pulling in even tighter, and with the lens that's on it, it's too tight as it is, and then you're cropping in further to add stabilization. For me, one of the biggest parts about it is it's £750 or $750, which I think is incredible money for a camera for a vlogger. And whilst, yes, I've paid more for this setup I've got here, this is a far more capable system, and this system allows me to grow as well, because if you're going to spend $800, near enough $800 on a camera, and you're a vlogger and you increase and you do more on your channel, you want to be able to experiment, you want to be able to change lenses and change looks and do these things. And the problem is it's got a fixed lens which won't allow you to do that. So you're going to be spending $800, and very, very quickly you're going to be limited by the hardware. My opinion is you're going to be far better spending that money on something like the A6000, the A6100, 200, 300, 400, whichever one falls into that price bracket. I think the A6400 is about $1,000 at the moment, so it is a little bit more expensive, plus the lens. But you'd be better getting a 6400 and a cheap £200 or £100 lens than getting that. And again, you wouldn't have the same problems. Yes, it's still got the stupid SD card in with the battery. That frustrates me even to this day. But you would not have the issues of having to remove the shoe or the bracket off the bottom of the camera just to be able to use it. So the ZV-1 is a bit of a weird one for me. I would love to give it a try. I want to do more videos this year out and about. It's one of the challenges that I've set myself. That's why the last couple of videos I have done is out and about, and I want to get out a bit more and being able to talk to you guys and show you guys some of the stuff that I'm doing, but not at £800. You know, this G9 cost me that money. This was £800. So I could have a ZV-1 or a G9. Yes, it's not the same stylus camera, but I know where I would put my money every time. And as I'm out here, I thought I'd give you guys a bit of a view of where I'm sitting. I am sitting on the front of the area that I live, just looking over the water. The time is getting a little bit late now. It's nearly 9 o'clock here in the UK. I just thought I'd give you a bit of a show what I'm seeing. You've got the Sony, as I said, the 6400 there. It is a good camera. I give it a lot of stick. However, it is actually a very good camera. It's just the lens drives me nuts, and I can't really afford to buy myself another one right now. The lens I'm talking about is that 18-105, which is the G1. Let me just show you, and it's the one with the zoom on the side. It's a very good lens. It's just got a shocking minimum focus distance. It really, really has. But anyway, and then you can see I got my Rode Wireless Go hanging off the side, as I always do. And that's pretty much how I record most of my videos. But yeah, that's it. And that's pretty much it. I hope this video has been interesting. It's really just one I'm going to put out on the channel. And yeah, if you're watching and you're not a subscriber, do hit that button. Help us along to that 15,000. Like and share the videos. I'd appreciate any support you guys can give us and on getting us there as well. That's it. Thank you for watching. I'm probably going to go live Sunday night, but I might do something a bit different. It's Thursday today. Perhaps I'll go live Friday. Who knows where we'll end up? Wait and see. Thank you very much.